Now, US President Donald Trump likes to take credit for the defeat of ISIS during his first year in office. The terror group has lost almost all of its territory in Syria and Iraq. One major battle was for the city of Mosul, and CNN's Arwa Damon has this look at what's left there and what the cost is. A warning, though, her report does contain some graphic images.
Residents told this municipal team the body of a little girl was buried under a layer of rubble. No one knows her name or where her parents are. Her body is curled in the fetal position, little more than dried skin and bones, next to a stuffed bunny. Her photograph will be added to a growing collection of images of the unclaimed. She's almost unrecognizable, but the workers hope that her family, if they are even alive, will recognize her toy. In the old city where ISIS made its final stance, where the battle and bombardment were most intense, it's hard to imagine that any rules were followed or how anyone survived.
When President Trump inherited this war a year ago, he did not change the rules of engagement. That is, the actual steps and procedures to carry out a military strike. What he did do was give the U.S. military chain of command more authority, which then resulted in a more aggressive strategy. Now, what those words actually mean on the ground, that's this.
The U.S. and Iraqi governments declared victory against ISIS. But for the population here, the catastrophic cost is still unknown. 6 months on, the stench of death lingers. Survivors walk around in a daze, and loved ones still search for their dead. With bare hands and a shovel, these young men are looking for the body of their great uncle. He was an intellectual, but what they remember most about him was his love for a Christian woman whose family would not let them marry. But he yearned for her his entire life. They dig up his skeletal remains on his bed. One of his neighbors finds an old magazine with an article about another of America's devastating wars.
Vietnam ثانية.
Then, like now, the U.S. has shied away from reporting overall civilian death tolls, grim realities that only become apparent later. A months-long investigation by the Associated Press found that 9,000 to 11,000 civilians were killed in Mosul, a third of them from coalition airstrikes. A local government official we spoke to says that matches the information he has. The U.S. military says it does look into individual reports and is acknowledging around 300 civilian deaths caused by its air power. And Iraq, which requests or approves the strikes, has established a committee to look into the overall death toll. What you get on the ground is a glimpse of the scale of death here.
This is a mass grave that has 20 bodies in it.
This man, a gravedigger, says he buried as many as 450 people in 2 months. Many of the graves unmarked, the identities of those here unknown, but he says most were civilians. Those who remain are left with the agonizing memories of what they endured. In the ruins of his home, Saad cannot see how victory is theirs. To kill one ISIS man, they would fire a rocket worth millions, he tells us, and knock down 10 homes. ISIS won by hurting us, and America won by hurting us. 5-year-old Ra'a wants to find her toys, memories of a childhood gone. This is the one she wants. It's a dream house, now the only home she has. What the population suffered here is not a numbers game. What they want is accountability for all they lost, for the price they paid. Arwa Damon, CNN, Mosul, Iraq.
Thanks to Arwa for that powerful report. Now, it's important to note that the Pentagon has responded to the Associated Press report that Arwa mentions in her piece. It says the AP did not conduct an investigation in this case and based a news article on unverified data. The Pentagon goes on to say, unlike ISIS, the coalition works to reduce risk to civilians, and it has gone so far as to abort missions in progress when there is an unacceptable risk of civilian casualties.